Hello, how's it going? Back with another video today. Sorry it took a little bit to get another one out, but I have to think about the topics and what I want to talk about in most of these. And in these times you kind of have to be careful with what you talk about a little bit, but I've come to the conclusion that I should not care and I should just say how I feel. And today I wanted to talk about the prosperity gospel and the snake oil salesmen that run these mega churches in America and across the world, and how it is preaching a false gospel and these people are wolves in sheep's clothing. So most of you watching probably have a base idea of what the prosperity gospel is, and at its base it is basically saying like whatever you give to God, God will give back to you, and God wants you to prosper in all facets of life, and he will allow you to prosper in all facets of life the more you give. And that is what the prosperity gospel is at its base. That is what has allowed all these pastors to get rich off of people, and it's honestly, quite frankly, very upsetting that these people are able to capitalize on people's feelings and belief in Jesus to make money. And it's sickening that the devil has taken roots in these churches. But that is the prosperity gospel at its base. And I take a stance that the prosperity gospel is a little bit more than that, honestly. I think the prosperity gospel is really just preaching a gospel where you really never dig deep into it, into the word, and just dig deep and talk about the very hard things to talk about. I believe that the extensive prosperity gospel is basically someone gets up there on the stage, a pastor gets up there on stage every Sunday, and basically it falls around saying the same thing, is that, your life is hard, but there's a God who wants better for you and has better for you, and if you follow him, your life will be better than it is right now. Which, there's some truth to that. Like, if you follow God, your life will be better, you will bear fruit, and you will you will end up leading a better life. But there's levels to that, and that's not really honestly the wholehearted truth. And I think that's also why people get driven away from the church sometimes, is because you go to church and you hear your pastor say, there's a God that loves you, and if you follow him, your life will be great. And you start to try to follow Jesus, and then what happens? Lo and behold, no surprise, your life isn't great. And then you're like, what happened? I was promised that my life was supposed to be great. I go to church every Sunday. I bought this guy's book. He tells me that my life should be great if I follow Jesus. But that's not what happens. If anything, sometimes your life will get harder because the devil will try to attack you more. Because the devil has no need to attack non-believers as he does Christians, because they're non-believers. He's not leading. He wants to lead us away from Christ. He wants to lead us away from God. Whereas the non-believers, he has no reason to make their lives harder. They're already in his grasp. He already has them in his control, and he's taking them to hell with him. There's this quote from this clip that I've seen, where this guy's talking to his grandma that has dementia, and he's like, Grandma, why is your life so hard and my life is so perfect, yet you've zealously followed God your whole life and I'm an atheist? And she gives this perfect analogy, which is it's kind of like you're in a prison, but the door is wide open, but the cell is so comfortable that you don't want to leave until one day the door shuts and you realize what happens, because the devil makes your life comfortable so you don't want to leave. But when you start to follow Christ, the devil will try to attack you more. And that's why the prosperity gospel is false and misleading and can in fact lead people away from Christ, because it is giving them false hope for what Christianity really is. Christianity is a hard life to lead. Especially across the world, people get persecuted. We're lucky to live in America, where people don't necessarily get persecuted with their lives for being a Christian. And it's just angering to me that these people will walk around and preach this gospel that is, although in some facets true, like Jesus does love you, God does love you, and he wants what's best for you. But what is best for you does not always look like a new car, more funds. It does not always look like your problems being snapped away. That's not what it looks like. It's a life of, our lives is going to be a life of struggle against sin. That's how it's going to be up until the point where we die. It's going to be a life of a struggle of sin. But if we keep God first and stand on his foundation, we will have true wealth and true prosperity and true richness. The poorest man of all time, he has no money and he can truly love Christ, and he is richer. Sorry, my video cut out there. I was saying that the poorest man of all time could have true richness if he loves Christ. He's richer than any rich man. He's richer than any rich man in the entire world. Honestly, I'm at a little bit of a loss for words here. Not really sure what to say after this. When I make these videos, I don't use a script. I just speak from my heart, and this is how I feel about this topic. But all I have to say is keep an eye out, okay? If you go to a church and the pastor is afraid to get deep and really dig in and talk about the difficult stuff, like I think the devil has taken root in a church when they don't speak or condemn sin. When they don't ever speak or condemn sin, and they don't ever speak about the devil, or hardly ever do, then he's taken root, because they fear to speak the devil. And if they fear to get deep and they just want to have the widest audience possible and talk to the widest audience possible, then the devil has taken root, because they fear to talk about him, because they don't want to drive people out of church. Like, you have to be real with them. That's what we want nowadays, is the truth. In a world that is filled with lies, what we need is the truth. That's what we need. That's the bottom line. We need the truth, and we need the truth from spiritual leaders and pastors, because you guys are the ones who are teaching us. So you guys have a heavy burden on your shoulders, and as pastors should be really digging into the word and talking about the good and the bad, because the good and the bad is the truth. And honestly, that's really all I have to say for this video. Appreciate you guys watching. Probably going to come out with another video soon, and I will see y'all in the next one. Thank you.